The silent warning ambassador Alina Vasquez stepped off the transport shuttle and onto the gleaming deck of Nexus Prime, the galaxy's largest diplomatic station orbiting Proxima Centauri. The artificial gravity felt comfortable under her feet, calibrated to Earth standard, though she knew that was more coincidence than courtesy. The station's designers had simply chosen the most common gravity, preference among the 17 species that made up the Galactic Trade Consortium. Alina adjusted her simple blue diplomatic uniform and checked her briefcase one final time. Inside were documents that would either change the course of galactic politics or be dismissed as the paranoid fantasies of a species barely 50 years into interstellar travel. She suspected it would be the latter, but her duty was clear. The corridor leading to the council chamber stretched before her, its walls lined with the emblems of dozens of civilizations. Earth's symbol was there too, small and tucked between the markers of 2 mining confederations, a reminder of humanity's place in the galactic hierarchy, or lack thereof. Dr. Sarah Kim walked beside her, carrying her own case of evidence. The xenobiologist had spent 3 years infiltrating hegemony research facilities, gathering intelligence on their expansion plans. Her findings were disturbing, but Alina knew the council would focus more on how the information was obtained than what it revealed. "Remember," Alina said quietly as they approached the chamber doors, "we're not here to threaten or posture. We're here to warn them about what's coming." Sarah nodded, though her expression remained grim. They had both seen the hegemony's secret files, the detailed plans for subjugating 12 peaceful star systems, the methodical approach, the calculated brutality, the complete disregard for civilian populations. It was genocide, dressed up as manifest destiny. The doors to the council chamber slid open with a soft hiss, revealing the circular amphitheater, where representatives from across the galaxy gathered to conduct business. Alina had been here twice before, both times to negotiate minor trade agreements. Today felt different. Today felt like history. Council Chair Ilos, a tall reptilian being from Rigel 4, gestured for them to approach the central podium. His scaly features showed polite interest, the same expression he wore for routine agricultural reports or shipping lane disputes. Alina suspected that would change quickly. "Ambassador Vasquez," Thylos said in the Universal Translator's flat, emotionless voice. "The floor recognizes the Earth delegation. You have requested an emergency session to address what your preliminary filing describes as an imminent threat to galactic peace. Please proceed." Alina activated the holographic display and began. The evidence was overwhelming. Intercepted communications detailing hegemony fleet movements, financial records showing massive military expenditures, biological weapons research targeting specific non-hegemony species, the systematic preparation for campaigns of conquest that would dwarf anything seen in the galaxy's recorded history. As she spoke, Alina watched the faces around her. Some showed surprise, others concern, but too many showed skepticism or outright dismissal. When she finished, the chamber fell silent for several long moments. It was Councillor Vex from the Deneb Trade Federation who spoke first. "Ambassador, these are serious accusations. But we must ask, how did Earth, a species barely past their first interstellar colony, obtain such detailed intelligence on the hegemony's classified operations?" Alina had expected this question. Through careful observation and the dedicated work of our intelligence services, the methods are not important. What matters is the accuracy of the information. "The methods are absolutely important," interrupted General Zaxxon, the hegemony's military representative. He was a massive being, over 3 meters tall, with chitinous armor plates covering his insectoid body. When he spoke, his mandibles clicked together with each word. What the human describes sounds like espionage, possibly sabotage. These are acts of war. The chamber erupted in murmurs and side conversations. Alina had hoped to avoid this moment, but Zaxxon had forced her hand. She activated another display, this one showing detailed scans of hegemony military installations and troop movements. If gathering intelligence to protect innocent lives is an act of war, then perhaps we need to redefine our terms, Alina said, calmly. But if you want to discuss acts of war, General, let's talk about your forces currently massing at the borders of the Altair colonies, or the biological weapons being tested on captured civilians from the Vega system. Zaxxon's compound, eyes flared with anger. You dare accuse the hegemony of war crimes based on stolen intelligence and fabricated evidence? I dare warn this council that 12 star systems are about to be attacked by a military force that views civilian casualties as acceptable losses, Alina replied. The question is whether you'll act on this warning or wait until the bodies start piling up. Council Chair Thylos raised his hand for order. Ambassador Vasquez, General Zaxxon, please. These are serious matters that require careful consideration. The Council will review your evidence, and the Council will do nothing, Zaxxon said, his voice carrying across the chamber. Because the Council has no enforcement authority, no military force, and no will to interfere in the internal affairs of sovereign systems. He turned his massive head toward Alina, and neither does Earth. The insult hung in the air like a poisonous cloud. Alina felt every representative in the chamber watching her, waiting to see how the human would respond to such a direct challenge. Some looked sympathetic, others curious, but none looked like they expected her to do anything meaningful about it. Alina closed her briefcase and straightened her shoulders. When she spoke, her voice was calm and measured, but it carried to every corner of the chamber. You're right, General. Earth has no enforcement authority in this galaxy. We're newcomers, barely 50 years past our first warp drive. We don't have the ancient lineages or the established trade networks or the military traditions that give weight to words in this chamber. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the assembled representatives. But we do have memory. We remember every species that asked for help and was ignored. We remember every colony that sent distress signals into the void. We remember every warning that went unheeded because it came from someone without sufficient power to make it stick. General Zaxxon laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Memory is a luxury for species that survive long enough to use it. Your Earth sits at the edge of civilized space with a handful of colonies and maybe 1,000 ships. What exactly do you think you can do if the hegemony chooses to expand its influence? Alina smiled then, her expression that somehow managed to be both friendly and terrifying. I think you're about to find out. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the constant hum of the station's life support systems seemed to fade away. Alina gathered her materials and prepared to leave, but Zaxxon wasn't finished. Is that a threat, human? Alina turned back to face him. No, General. It's a promise. The hegemony will not attack innocent civilians while Earth has the power to stop it. Remember that when you're deciding which systems to invade first. As Alina and Dr. Kim left the chamber, the representatives behind them erupted in heated discussion. Some demanded to know what the human meant. Others suggested Earth was bluffing. A few wondered if humanity might have cards they hadn't yet shown. Council Chair Thylos, called for order repeatedly, but the chaos continued. In the confusion, nobody noticed General Zaxxon's aide quietly recording Elena's exact words, or the way the general's compound eyes tracked the human ambassador until the chamber doors closed behind her. 3 days later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the Earth transport vessel Determination, watching Nexus Prime shrink in the distance. Dr. Kim joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a troubled expression. "Do you think they'll listen?" Sarah asked, handing Elena one of the cups. Elena sipped the coffee and considered the question. Through the viewport, she could see stars scattered across the void like diamonds on black cloth. Each point of light represented entire worlds, billions of lives, civilizations that had existed for millennia before humans had even discovered fire. "No," she said finally, "they won't listen. They can't conceive of a species like us having real power, so they'll dismiss our warning as empty posturing. Then, why did we bother?" Elena turned from the viewport and smiled. "Because in 3 months, when Admiral Chen's fleet decloaks across 7 star systems simultaneously, I want there to be a record that we tried diplomacy first." Sarah nearly dropped her coffee. "Chen's ready. The shipyard's actually finished. 12,000 vessels completed their trials last week," Elena said. "The asteroid belt construction program exceeded all projections. Fusion torch drives, quantum entanglement, communication arrays, plasma weaponry that makes hegemony technology look like stone knives and bear skins." "My God," Sarah whispered, "we actually did it." Elena nodded. 5 years of every available resource, every brilliant mind, every manufacturing facility in the Sol system working toward one goal: the defense of Earth and her allies. The Council still doesn't know. The Council thinks we have 1,000 ships, maybe 1,500 at most. They've been watching our public shipyards and counting hulls like accountants. They have no idea what we've been building in the dark. The reckoning Admiral Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the EDS Retribution, watching the tactical display that showed 12,000 human warships positioned throughout 7 star systems. Each vessel was invisible to conventional sensors, their hulls wrapped in adaptive camouflage that bent light and absorbed scanning attempts. To any observer, the space around them appeared empty, but Marcus knew better. Hidden in the void were the products of 5 years of unprecedented human cooperation. Every nation on Earth had contributed resources, personnel, and technology to this moment. The ships surrounding him represented humanity's answer to a galaxy that preferred to look the other way when peaceful civilizations were threatened. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving the transmission from Nexus Prime." Marcus nodded. They had been monitoring Galactic Council communications for months, waiting for this moment. The hegemony had finally made their move, just as Elena Vasquez had predicted they would. 3 days ago, General Zaxxon's forces had attacked the Altair colonies without warning, overwhelming their minimal defenses and beginning what they called a pacification campaign. The holographic display flickered to life, showing grainy footage from Altair Prime. Hegemony forces moved through city streets, their weapons cutting down anyone who resisted. Civilian shelters were being bombed from orbit. The colony's government had surrendered within hours, but the violence continued. "Status report," Marcus ordered. "All fleet groups report ready," his tactical officer replied. "Task Force Alpha is positioned at Altair. Task Force Beta is standing by at the Hegemony home systems. Task Forces Gamma through Echo are deployed at strategic points along their supply lines." Marcus studied the display. 12,000 ships, each one carrying technology that made them superior to anything else in the galaxy. Fusion torch drives that could accelerate continuously for weeks, plasma weapons that could punch through any known armor, point defense systems that could track and destroy thousands of incoming missiles simultaneously. But more than that, each ship carried the determination of a species that had watched too many atrocities go unpunished. Humanity had spent its early history fighting each other, learning hard lessons about war and peace, victory and defeat. Now they were ready to teach those lessons to others. "Open a channel to the Galactic Council," Marcus ordered. The communications officer looked up in surprise. "Sir, they don't know we're here." "They're about to." Across the galaxy, on Nexus Prime, Council Chair Thylos was conducting an emergency session regarding the Altair situation. Representatives argued about economic sanctions and diplomatic protests, while footage of the ongoing massacre played on screens around the chamber. General Zaxxon participated via hologram, his image flickering as he transmitted from his flagship in the Altair system. The hegemony's actions, while regrettable, are within the bounds of interstellar law, Zaxxon was saying. The Altair colonies were harboring dissidents and weapon smugglers. Our response is proportionate and necessary. Councillor Vex from the Deneb Trade Federation slammed his appendage on his desk. Proportionate. You're bombing civilian shelters. Children are dying. Collateral damage is inevitable in any military operation, Zaxxon replied coldly. The colonies should have considered that before harboring criminals. Council Chair Thylos raised his hand for order. "General, while the Council recognizes the hegemony's sovereign right to defend itself, the scale of civilian casualties raises serious concerns about the holographic display in the center of the chamber suddenly activated without authorization." The image of Admiral Marcus Chen appeared, wearing the crisp blue uniform of Earth's defense forces. Behind him, the bridge of a human warship was visible, its advanced technology clearly apparent. "Council Chair Thylos, honored representatives," Marcus said calmly. "I am Admiral Marcus Chen of the Earth Defense Forces. I apologize for interrupting your deliberations, but I felt it was important to inform you that Earth is implementing the promise made by Ambassador Vasquez 5 years ago." The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Thylos struggled to regain control. "Admiral Chen, this is highly irregular. Earth has no authorization to broadcast 2 council sessions, and I'm not sure what promise you're referring to." Marcus smiled, and his expression was every bit as unsettling as Elena's had been. "The promise that innocent people would not die while Earth had the power to stop it. General Zaxxon, I believe you challenged us to explain what exactly we thought we could do." Zaxxon's image flickered with rage. "Human, you're interfering in matters beyond your understanding. The Altair situation is none of Earth's concern." "I disagree," Marcus replied. "In fact, I'd say it's very much our concern." On cue, space around Altair Prime suddenly filled with ships. 1,200 human vessels decloaked simultaneously, their hulls gleaming with advanced armor and weapons arrays. The hegemony fleet, caught completely off guard, scrambled to respond. On Nexus Prime, the council chamber fell completely silent as they watched the tactical display update in real time. The readings were impossible. How had so many ships approached without being detected? "General Zaxxon," Marcus continued, his voice carrying across both the council chamber and the hegemony fleet frequencies, "you have 30 seconds to cease all military operations in the Altair system and withdraw your forces. This is your only warning." Zaxxon's mandibles clicked furiously. "You think your pathetic fleet can intimidate the hegemony? We have 800 ships in this system alone." I'm sure you do, Marcus acknowledged. Computer, show the general. Our full deployment. The tactical display expanded, revealing not just the forces at Altair, but human fleets throughout hegemony space. Ships appeared near military installations, supply depots, and civilian worlds. The scope was staggering. 12,000 vessels, positioned with surgical precision to paralyze the entire hegemony military structure in the council chamber. Representatives sat in stunned silence. Some were frantically consulting their own military advisors, trying to understand how Earth had deployed such a massive force without anyone noticing. Impossible, whispered Councillor Vex. Our intelligence reports suggested Earth had maybe 1,000 ships total. Our intelligence was wrong, Thelos replied. Grimly, General Zaxxon's image was flickering more rapidly now, betraying his growing panic. This is some kind of illusion. Humans don't have the industrial capacity to build such a fleet. You're right, Marcus admitted. We didn't have that capacity 5 years ago. But we built it. Every asteroid mining station, every orbital factory, every shipyard in the Sol system has been working toward this moment. While you were planning your conquests, we were preparing our response. The 30-second deadline passed. Marcus nodded to his tactical officer. General Zaxxon, you have chosen to ignore our warning. Task Force Alpha, you are authorized to engage. What followed was less a battle than a demonstration. Human plasma. Weapons reached out across space, their beams punching through hegemony shields like they were made of paper. Point defense systems swatted down incoming missiles by the hundreds. Hegemony ships that had terrorized civilian populations for decades were reduced to debris in minutes. The engagement lasted exactly 7 minutes. When it was over, the entire hegemony fleet in the Altair system had been destroyed or disabled. Not a single human vessel had been lost in the council chamber. General Zaxxon's hologram flickered one final time before cutting out entirely. The representatives sat in absolute silence, staring at the tactical display that showed the complete annihilation of what had been considered one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces. Marcus appeared on their screens again, his expression calm and professional. Council Chair Thylos, honored representatives, Earth's defense forces have successfully neutralized the immediate threat to the Altair colonies. Humanitarian assistance is being provided to survivors and medical ships are en route. Thelos found his voice with difficulty. Admiral Chen, this is unprecedented. The scale of your military response, the technology you've displayed, ... Where did all of this come from? From necessity, Marcus replied. 5 years ago, Ambassador Vasquez came to this chamber with evidence of planned atrocities. She was dismissed, ignored, and threatened. We decided that if the galaxy wouldn't listen to our warnings, it would listen to our actions. The hegemony will never accept this, Councillor Vex managed. They'll mobilize their entire military. This could mean war across dozens of star systems. Marcus nodded toward his tactical officer. The display updated again, showing hegemony military installations throughout their territory. Every single one was surrounded by human ships. Councillor Vex, the hegemony's entire military is currently surrounded and outgunned by approximately 10-to-1 margins. Their choice is simple: stand down and accept war crimes tribunals for their leadership, or be removed from the equation entirely. The implications were staggering. In a single coordinated strike, Earth had demonstrated the ability to project military power across the entire galaxy. More than that, they had shown the technology and organization to coordinate 12,000 ships in perfect synchronization. What are Earth's demands? Thylos asked quietly. Asterisk. Marcus smiled again. We do. Earth has spent 5 years studying every conflict, every injustice, every atrocity in this galaxy. We know who the aggressors are. We know who preys on the weak. And we know who stands by and does nothing when they could intervene. The unspoken message was clear. The Galactic Council's era of passive observation was over. Earth had appointed itself the galaxy's protector, and they had the power to enforce that decision. Admiral Thylos said carefully, "Surely you understand that such unilateral action destabilizes the entire galactic political structure. There must be dialogue, negotiation, established procedures." There were established procedures, Marcus interrupted. Ambassador Vasquez followed them 5 years ago. She presented evidence, made formal warnings, and requested action. The response was laughter and threats. He leaned forward slightly, his image dominating the chamber's main display. The time for procedures is over. Earth will not ask permission to protect innocent lives. We will not debate the ethics of stopping genocide. We will not negotiate with civilizations that view civilian casualties as acceptable losses. Around the chamber, representatives exchanged glances. Some looked terrified, others calculating. A few seemed almost relieved. The galaxy's balance of power had shifted permanently in the span of 7 minutes. What of the hegemony survivors? Asked a representative from Rigel. War crimes tribunals for the leadership, Marcus replied. Disarmament and reconstruction oversight for their military. Their civilian populations will be unharmed and free to choose their own governments. And if other civilizations object to Earth's new role as galactic enforcer, Marcus's expression grew cold. Then they're welcome to try stopping us. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Outside, through the station's viewports, space looked exactly the same as it had an hour earlier. But everyone in the chamber knew that everything had changed. Earth had been dismissed as a minor power, ignored when they tried to warn of coming atrocities, and threatened when they dared to speak up. Now they sat at the center of the galaxy's largest military force, with the power to reshape interstellar politics according to their own moral compass. Council Chair Thylos looked around the chamber at his fellow representatives. Many were already consulting with their home governments, trying to determine where their civilizations stood in this new reality. I hereby call this session to recess, Thylos announced wearily. I suspect we all have urgent communications to make. As the representatives filed out, each lost in their own thoughts, the tactical display continued to show 12,000 human ships positioned throughout the galaxy, silent guardians waiting to enforce humanity's vision of justice. The age of consequences had begun. Asterisk.